Here's the introduction to native Florida carnivorous plants. By definition, a carnivorous plant must attract, capture, and kill its prey and have a system to facilitate digestion of the prey. And it must derive a significant benefit from the nutrients assimilated from its prey. The reason being, these carnivorous plants have evolved these tendencies in conjunction with the use of photosynthesis in order to adapt to the nutrient-scarce soils in which they grow. So imagine pine trees, acidic soil, and a lot of water, and that's where they all grow at, basically. So Florida's native carnivorous plants. Florida is home to more carnivorous plants than any other state in the United States. 5 species of Drosera, the sundew, 6 species of Pinguicula, the butterwort, 6 species of Sarracenia, the pitcher plant, 14 species of Utricularia, the bladderwort. Genus Drosera, the sundew. Here's Drosera filiformis. Got a filiform leaf right there. It's a pretty nice plant. There's some of them back in the back if you didn't already see them. Here's the Drosera capillaris. This is a really common plant in Alachua County. The attraction is that dew right there. It leads those bugs right in there. Here's a Drosera brevifolia, the small sundew. It's very small, probably about as big as a quarter at the largest that I've ever seen it. Here's Drosera intermedia. It's got a spoon-shaped leaf on it right there. It's not native to this area, more along the lines of Apalachicola in northern Florida. Drosera rotundifolia, the round leaf sundew, similar to the rest. It's native to Apalachicola National Forest in northern Florida. Here is a close-up. All sundews capture prey by using the drops of dew. The drops of dew are actually a sweet-smelling Well, the drops of dew are actually sweet-smelling mucilaginous dew. Oops. So they're actually sweet-smelling dew, and it's got mucilaginous tendencies. It's also, it attracts and digests the prey there. As I said, it captures the prey. Once the bug is ensnared, the hairs slowly close around it and bind it in place. This is with all species of the sundew native to Florida. And the bug is now immobilized. It starts digesting the prey. It releases digestive enzymes from the sessile glands on the actual stalk and the petole of the plant, and that's what breaks it down, and it then digests. Here's the Pinguicula. Here's Pinguicula cerulean, the blue butterwort. That's native to Alachua and Levy County, as well as a good part of the rest of the state. Here's a Pinguicula iantha. This is Godfrey's butterwort, native to the Panhandle. Here's Pinguicula lutea, the yellow butterwort. This is native to Alachua and Levy County. You'll find them on the roadside ditches. Here's Pinguicula planifolia. This is native to the Panhandle. It's got a nice red rosette leaf to it there on the ground. Here's the Pinguicula primiflora, the primrose butterwort, or the clearwater butterwort. It likes to inhabit spring runs along spring-fed creeks in Apalachicola. Here's Pinguicula plumelia, the small butterwort. This is native to Alachua and Levy County as well as most of Florida. We'll be able to see this on the field trip coming up.
How do you capture butterworts? How do you capture
Okay. So the Pinguicula, or little greasy one, as it's translated from Latin, gets its name from the green leaves that are covered with the tiny hairs that secrete the mucilage. That's what attracts it. Right here, the attraction is the mucilage over the green. It shimmers. That brings in the insects. Now the bug lands on the leaf there, and it becomes ensnared in the mucilage. Now it's glued to the leaf surface, struggling around. And then it has a secondary set of concave sessile glands that are on the leaf here that you can't see. And it secretes those digestive enzymes that then break down that bug and turns it into nutrient soup that then those sessile glands will then reabsorb. In the Sarracenia American pitcher plant. Here's the Sarracenia flava. This is Flava regelii. It's a variety. There's a lot of varieties of these plants. I kept it simple just for the PowerPoint. Here's Sarracenia leucophylla, the white top pitcher plant. These are native to Apalachicola. Here's Sarracenia minor. These are native to Alachua and Levy County. It's different than the others. It has a hood. It's the hooded pitcher plant, and has those white windows, and that's an attraction method, or an attraction and a trapping method, because the bugs then can't get out of the hood. A little bit different than the others. Here's Sarracenia psittacina, the parrot pitcher plant. It has a little bit different of a trap. This here has like a lobster trap to it, and sometimes these can be inundated with water, and you can catch little fry fish and frog larvae and different things in the water. But this is Sarracenia psittacina, the parrot pitcher plant. Here's Sarracenia rosea. It has a little bit of a different digestion method than the rest of them. It relies on the bugs to depreciate in the water. It creates enzymes like the rest, but not as much. And bacteria in the water breaks down the bugs there, and it digests them. It's a little bit different looking than the others as well. It's a low forming plant. And here's Sarracenia rubra, the Gulf pitcher plant. It's a very tall, spindly plant, kind of small, but that veination right there, that's another attraction point for these different plants. So the carnivorous Sarracenia leaf is referred to as a pitfall trap. It is a highly evolved multi-part insect devouring mechanism. The attraction is the slippery, intoxicating nectar trails composed of various amino acids that lead to the mouth of the pitcher's trap. Needle-like hairs point towards it, and the opening itself has a slick, waxy nectar surface. Of the 6 species of Sarracenia found in Florida, the passive pitfall, the only real difference in species are the beautiful and fascinating colorations to visually attract and direct insects towards the trap opening. These colors intensify in bright sun and mostly appear as venation running up and down the traps. Some species grow white or translucent windows embedded, as the Sarracenia minor and the leucophylla, and also the psittacina has white translucent windows on some of them. And the others have the veins, the flava, and different species, the rubra, and that's how they get them to come trap them as well. This disorients the insects, making them slip and crash down into the bottom of the pitcher. And once inside the pitcher, they're digested and dissolved with enzymes and fluid contained in the bottom of the pitcher. Now, Utricularia is a little different than the rest of them. There's 14 species growing here in Florida. They're all relatively similar. There are some that are like the flagship for its kind. Here is the Utricularia inflata, the floating butterwort. Well, as you can see, it's floating on the water. Those pieces help it float, and they're also carnivorous traps that are down in the water here. Here's the Utricularia purpurea. It's also floating, but more suspended in the water without the floating mechanisms. And here's the Utricularia junctia, the southern bladderwort, and it is a terrestrial growing bladderwort. All the traps are similar, but the only difference is terrestrial and aquatic. Moving into the Utricularia is a unique genus in the fact that they can be found as either a terrestrial or an aquatic species. There are still studies being done to better understand this genus and its broad characteristics. The attraction suggests that there may be a symbiotic relationship with microorganisms around the bladder and aid the prey to come. So Trigger hairs are located near the door of the trap. One touch of these hairs causes the door to swing open at 10,000ths of a second, sucking prey into the low pressure trap and aquatic species. This also brings in surrounding water. Over the next few minutes, this water is pumped out and the trap refills itself with mucilage. In little 20 minutes, the trap is ready to catch more prey. Unfortunately, I don't know why it's not popping up. I had a great picture of a zoomed in version of the trap that a friend of mine, Ben Merritt, took, but I don't know why it's not showing up here. But, microbes found within the bladder coupled with enzymes secreting glands lining the ventricular bladder dissolve the prey. Within hours, these same glands then reabsorb this soup of nutrients. Here are some other Florida carnivorous plants. Here is the Catopsis bertaniana, or the powder strap air plant. Is a tank bromeliad that lives in South Florida and also South America, but its northern range is in southern Florida. And in this tank of this bromeliad, it has evolved to capture and digest prey. So it is basically carnivorous. It just depends on what botanist or studier that you talk to. And here's the Florida Venus flytrap that is not native, but in the 1900s, horticulturists scattered seeds all out in northern Florida and Wakulla and Franklin counties, and they are now naturalized here in Florida. But this is basically the introduction of carnivorous plants of Florida. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any questions?
How many are terrestrial and how many are aquatic?
Of the 14, it's probably 4 are terrestrial and the rest are mainly aquatic.
And even the terrestrial ones, they grow on more salt.
Yeah,
They're not responding to the sandhill.
Yeah, it takes a lot of water. Takes a lot of water. Actually, it hasn't rained in a while, and normally I'd be dreary of that, but for the upcoming field trip, that might benefit us in being able to get out a little bit further. Come again? Yeah, yes, if you'd like, yes. It's however you feel. It's however you feel. I go out there with just a pair of shorts and Crocs on, but it is how whatever suits each other. Yes.
The smallest butterwort.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't that flower in like 3 different colors?
Yes, so there is a undescribed species that from South Florida. Well, it's described, it's just not linked into the familia yet through the International Carnivorous Plant Society. So there is a yellow one that grows South Florida, kind of in Miami, but it hasn't been described as much.
Yeah, because I've seen them out in Big Cypress
Yes, ma'am.
and
But normally they are white through a purple or pink coloration. Any
right.
on the side of a road and 15 feet, you might see one of every color. It's
Right
pretty
next
nice.
to a trail with people bopping
Yes,
by and
ma'am.
not even seeing them.
Yes, ma'am.
The flowers of pitcher plants are so unique. How are they coming?
So unfortunately, I don't think I have any pictures of them, but if after it's done, I will go back to the plants and describe for everybody how that's done on the flower that's back there on the plants.
Hypothetical situation. If they can't get any insects, how long could they live? Are they able to take nutrition from other things?
So they do get nutrition through photosynthesis, but it's not really a sustainable amount. Like some of the plants in Gothi are less appealing. I don't know if it's because the pitchers don't grow or the thrips or something hurt them and it makes the pitcher not form to be carnivorous, and those plants are doing terrible. But yeah.
Will they keep going? Or?
Yeah, yes, they'll keep going. They produce a non-carnivorous leaf when they don't get that. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
The bromeliad one, is it susceptible to the evil evil?
I am not sure. There's most likely a chance that it is.
it's more susceptible to that.
More susceptible.
Yes,
Do they- I guess it's sort of a technical question. You said they derive energy from photosynthesis. Do they derive energy from standard biochemistry of animals? Can they do, what's the rubber?
so the digestion, it's just the digestion.
So they make enzymes that generate amino acids, or they use amino acids, they use carbohydrates, they use lipids.
I'm gonna have to get back with you on that, because I don't necessarily know that information.
It takes all sorts of enzymes to do.
Yes, there's a lot of different enzymes and biochemistry going on within a pitcher plant that I do not know the technical parts of it. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned there are maybe 4 criteria for food predators.
Yes.
Are there, does that mean that there are a lot of plants that are partial, they use some of the pathways?
Well, Plants I have seen, there are some that do attract, like the tar flower. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the native tar flower. The leaf, or actually the petal of that flower is covered with sticky mucilaginous. And it catches bugs, but it's not carnivorous because it does not digest bugs. So those 4 criteria are pretty standard: attract, capture, kill, and digest, and then gain a great amount of nutrients from the digesting. Yes, sir.
Could you give us a quick outline of how to set up a bog in our yard?
Okay, yes. A container bog or an in-ground bog,
Yes.
because there's 2 different kinds. So you could have a container bog that you go buy from Lowe's. They have like a plantainer. It's either a 15-gallon or a 25-gallon. It's just the depth is changed, and that's what I like to use so I can move them about. And if you wanted to build one in the ground, you'd go get, you could dig a hole and bury that plantainer in it, or you could get like a regular pond liner and cut some slits in it. And then you'd build it up with peat moss and perlite about the majority of the way. And then the top, you'd top dress with the sphagnum moss. And then you just add the carnivorous plants right in there and water it with rainwater or distilled water. And that's basically full sun. And that would be the bog garden in your front yard.
They can't, am I correct in that they can't tolerate any fertilizers? Or
Yeah, they are not, they cannot tolerate any fertilizers at all. They'll die pretty swiftly. Well, the North American carnivorous plants. Yes.
I didn't realize there were bladder worms that were terrestrial, so for the little bladders to work, I guess it would have to be pretty moisture saturated soil.
Yes, ma'am.
Water.
Yes, ma'am. It's pretty inundated, basically the floodplain swamp. So
Yeah.
they flower right about now, and then the water comes.
I would find these years ago when I was in graduate school, Utricularia johnsia, Utricularia, what's the other one, looks like johnsia?
Subulata.
Subulata. And they're like this tall, and they're going in moist sanderites, where Kingsley Lake is. Any of those acid lakes up in those areas, that Kingsley was a little higher in trophic state than say like Shelar that we went to on Gold Head Ranch. So we were on the field trip back. But that's where you find those. And I always wondered the same thing. They must be catching like
Nematodes and such.
Yeah, or because I can't think of any cladocerans or copepods or things that are going to be floating around in the sand. So
Yeah.
and there's also different, to answer your question, there's different respiratory pathways in aquatic plants, right? So you have C3 and C4 Calvin systems of respiration. I don't know the differences anymore. It's been too many years since I left that at school, but that I know in cattails have a certain, they're one type of calvin like C4, and then a lot of other aquatic plants are C3, and it's how they manage all that to, I don't want to say digest, I want to say metabolize this stuff,
Yes.
Probably a whole study in itself, I imagine.
I'm gonna have to look into that. I appreciate that question. Yes.
I noticed that these are pretty big. What's the largest, is the size of the plant determined on the amount of food that it can get? And what was the largest carnivorous plant species maybe down in Florida? This one?
Well, in Florida, the largest carnivorous plants are gonna be,
Saracenia.
yeah, the Saracenia, the tall pitcher plants. They get like 3 feet tall for a pretty big. The Flava Brugelii gets about 30 to 36 inches tall. The Saracenia minor, there's a couple different types of it. There's one type that stays small, and then there's another species that grows pretty intermediate, and then there's another one that grows to be like 2 to 3 feet tall.
Size is directly related to the amount of.
No, not necessarily, age. So when the pitcher plant starts as a seedling, it is a very small seedling. Like the cotyledons are probably like an inch long at the most. And then after 5 years in the wild, you get, about 6 to 8 inch plant. And then every year after that with, the bugs. And also the traps of the small Saracenia aren't really catching bugs like a viable amount. They're using photosynthesis and other methods realistically, but the pitchers are so little, only a small amount of bugs can get in for a couple of years.
And remember the center diversity of these types of plants, it's not here. We're kind of the upper edge of that here in Florida. The center diversity is the tropic, South America, places like that, you have things that are like the Nepenthes.
Yeah,
There's another carnivorous plant family where you have vines with big jugs hanging off. You may have seen some of these in the
Those are-
botanical gardens.
yeah, those are really large plants.
Really cool looking, but they won't live up here.
They will, you just gotta keep them inside.
Keep them inside.
Yeah, well, there's actually a man, I can't remember his name, I spoke with him a couple times via the internet, and he had a botanical garden in Ocala, and then he moved further south because he loved Nepenthes, and he would grow them outdoors.
Maybe the guy up there at Cedar Lakes, we put some down in their barn.
Well, there's a Nepenthes there, and I repotted it not long back ago, and it had fertilizer all inside of the pot. So that plant you can fertilize it foliar and root wise, and but it didn't create any pitchers because it didn't need the pitchers anymore. So it really a huge binding plant. So now that I've repotted it, it's probably going to get some large.
Just carve it a little bit.
Yeah. Yes.
That's true. So the 31 species there, what do you expect to find on the go from field trip?
Well, there is Drosera, about 3 different types of it. The Saracenia minor, there's going to be a decent amount of it. There'll be a decent amount of the Pinguicula. 3 species of the Pinguicula will be present, but they mowed the side of the road the other day, so there won't be as many flowers present. So it will be hard to tell if one is Lutea and the other one is Cerulean, but those are the 2 that'll be there. And, of the Utricularia, we will probably see Inflata, which is the floating butterwort, and the Subulata that grows pretty frequently in Gothi. So we'll see it 1 or 2 species of Drosera, 3 species of Pinguicula, a species of Saracenia, and possibly 2 or 3 species of the Utricularia. That's what you could expect. Yes.
I have seen discussions about hybridizing. And is it the Saracenia species in Panhandle that all interbreed?
Yes, so basically, yes.
The ones that we have in Alachua County?
Well, Alachua County, we necessarily only have the Saracenia minor, and there's like 2 varieties. There's Saracenia minor, and then there's Saracenia minor variety minor. So it's only just a little bit. I've found some that are 2 feet tall and very large, and a lot of crazy venation to them, but they're still the Saracenia minor variety minor. And then there's really little ones, and that's the regular minors. And then there's one non-native to Florida that is the Okefenokeensis, and it is tall and spindly, and it grows in the Okefenokee swamp. But that's basically.
Are there any obligate commensals in the pitcher plants? Like I seem to remember reading, is there a mosquito larva that?
Yes, so, yes, in that rosea. So
Thank you.
Sarracenia rosea, the Sarracenia rosea, bugs and different things get into that. And the mosquito larvae live in the rosea, and also the Catapsis virginiana, it has mosquito larvae and other insects that live in it and form a
Is that
relationship.
lenticular AC
So
two?
you,
Is that the same family?
No, this is, I believe that's in the Tillandsia family, this powdered brown
Oh,
hair
I was
plant.
gonna say, it looks like a bromeliad.
Yeah, it is it's a tank bromeliad.
so,
That's what it is.
so the larva that's mosquito that pushes out, and we have a bunch of mosquitoes. flying in.
Yes, yes.
But
Yes.
are they able to
But-
withstand that?
They don't eat them for
No, that's a good question. I think they emerge or have evolved to be impermeable to those such things. But the Utricularia, the aquatic, they do a good job of eating mosquito larvae and everything else that comes around. It's pretty interesting. It's terrible that that picture didn't show up. It was a great picture.
Bring it with you to the.
Yes, yes, ma'am, I will be.
When Utricularia floridana, that one blooms
Later.
late? Okay,
Later.
because there's a couple lakes out at Ordway's Fisher Biological Station where they're just, I mean, that's the dominant aquatic vegetation. That's like, all you see is this like floridana. And I was there a couple weeks ago and I was hoping it was gonna be blooming and it was not. So I don't know when I should go back.
That's the one that also occurs with, particular AC. That's the one.
Yeah, that's the southern, that's,
Both of
yeah,
those look
that,
very similar.
yeah, that one, that's what she's talking about, is that
Yeah,
southern
and
one.
I had that out there. It was like something, things little things, like Lowry and Magnolia out on landing. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised it's in the woods.
I can't remember exactly when it bloomed. Last year I have some of this in a bog in the house.
Okay.
And, it's around August, I think is when it come up. It comes up a little green spindly
Yeah.
stalks, and then it blooms a
Way
month or
later,
two later.
because like in Leda, they have
Yeah.
some out there, I mean, it's
It's
already
always-
bloomed.
That aquatic inflata, it's blooming crazy. About a month ago, I went and drove through what's called Devil's Hammock in Bronson, and they got ditches where they made the grade that